I don't think I've ever mentioned in any of my videos about building shower floors how important it is at some point before you get too far along that you make sure your floor drains like it's supposed to. If you've done this type of work long enough, you have a pretty good idea that everything is fine, but still, I always have a hint of anxiety the first time I dump a bucket of water on my completed shower floor. The floor looks good, and don't worry about the wallboard. It'll be dry in a minute. We left off at the end of the first part of this video showing the process to build this corner shower from scratch. You can check that video out at the link in the corner to understand the full build process to this point. Now we have a shower seat to incorporate into the project, and I wanted to explain more in depth the process to give you a full picture of how this is done and hopefully save some confusion later. As you can see, I completely finish out my shower floor, including grouting it, before I install wallboard or any tile at all. That will make more sense soon, but my intention is to make sure that water that is sprayed in the shower has the best opportunity to get to the drain without any detours where it would only cause problems down the road. Over the years of doing bathroom remodels, I've run across a lot of approaches installers use to build their showers that typically don't work out very well in the long run. I'm not big on using wood in the step. I know people go to great lengths these days to use waterproofing products to keep water away from the wood. All I can say is that if you're not successful, water will destroy your step and it won't take that long. Most are shortcuts they took that cause problems once the grout and caulk joints begin to deteriorate. The biggest issue is that these installers seem to have been in a hurry, and because they're not paying attention, they do things like screw into the shower pan at levels below the surface of the floor tile. The other very common issue is the wallboard is installed down into the area where the floor is going to be, and the installers float their dry pack up against the wallboard. That is an easy way to float the floor, and they can even draw lines on the walls to mark the top of the floor to guide them. But the biggest negative to this approach is that it creates a joint between the shower floor and the wallboard that as water finds its way into that crack over time, it can create problems, particularly if some damage was done to the shower pan during installation. Water collecting in areas like this joint not only lead to mold growth in the joints, but also outright leaks through holes in the shower pan where screws have been placed below the level of the shower floor. By contrast, I build my steps out of brick, whether it's a corner shower or one that only has a straight step as wide as the shower door. I would prefer not to build shower seats like this that extend to the floor of the shower, but instead prefer the corner seats made of stainless steel that are filled with dry pack. But if this is what the customer wants, this is how I go about doing it. Next comes the first layer of dry pack or pre-slope, which is not absolutely necessary but is a part of my process. The pan is installed after that, and because I'm going to encase the step in a layer of concrete that's reinforced with metal lath, I extend the shower pan across the top of the step. Next comes the final layer of dry pack, which sets the final height of the shower floor. I set forms for the step after wrapping it in metal lath, as you can see in the first video. I use the same cement and sand mixture I use for dry pack. The only difference is I thin it to the point that it will pour and flow into the forms. There's always about a 1/4 inch pitch on my step running back into the shower, so that water that hits the step finds its way to the drain as well. Next comes shower floor tile that I install and grout. That way, my most important component for the shower, being the shower floor, is complete, and I use drop cloths to protect it throughout the rest of the process. 1/2 inch hardybacker goes on the seat, and in this case I'm adding a waterproofing membrane to the seat. And just as one final precaution, I'm also adding a coat of brush-on waterproofing membrane to the seat before I begin setting tile. At this point, I can finish adding the rest of the 1/2 inch hardybacker to the walls, and the shower is now ready for tile. So my preference is to build the floor and set floor tile to the edge of the shower floor, which then creates the opportunity for the wallboard to extend out over the grouted tile floor. Furthermore, the tile floor has a pitch on it running back to the drain, so water coming off the tile on the wall lands close to 1 inch away from the edge of the floor on a slope. So the chances of water making its way into the floor and creating a problem over time are remote. I also tend to install my wallboard just a little bit up off the floor. That joint can either be caulked or left open. Because tile is going to be applied to the wallboard, I caulk the bottom joint between the wall tile and the floor with a silicone type caulk, which again provides a barrier to keep water from ever getting under the wallboard. That's just how I do it, and it makes sense to me. I've never had any issues with installing shower floors this way. It does take more time because you're having to stage the whole process differently to install the floor this way, but as I said, it makes sense to me, and this is the way I do it. Now, when it comes to installing a seat like this in the shower, the process is that I'm simply treating the sides of the seat as exterior walls to the shower floor. In my showers, I use 1/2-inch HardieBacker as my wallboard, so my first step on the seat is to place a layer of HardieBacker all the way around the framing for the seat. You'll notice that I'm keeping my penetrations through the shower pan up about 3 to 4 inches above the finished floor of the shower floor tile. There are lots of ways to go about waterproofing the seat, which absolutely has to be done. I have used this Curdy product a couple of times now and have actually been pretty impressed with it. It's a waterproof membrane that you use thin set to essentially glue it to the wall, or in this case, the HardieBacker covered seat. Here it's a little like wrapping a Christmas gift, but you will notice the way that I'm installing it is strictly for the purpose of controlling the flow of water that might someday get to this membrane. So the water flows over it and down to the floor without having any crevices or areas where water can collect. I'm also wrapping up the wall a few inches, which mimics the way I install the shower pan on the floor. This is one of the more complicated shower fixture and lighting projects I've ever done. It has an overhead rainfall shower head as well as massage jets just over the seat and a handheld spray wand to boot. The homeowner said if anyone has trouble reaching her, this is where she'll be. The faucet to control all this had a pressure adjust knob on it and a temperature control knob before the final knob that controlled the water distribution depending on which function was being used. Anyway, I told the owner that I hope the faucet lasts a long time because it would be an incredible pain to replace it. There are pipes running everywhere to get the water where it needs to go, so I was extra careful everywhere I put a screw in that was in the vicinity of any piping whatsoever. It seemed like everything worked out fine when I was done, so maybe I got lucky. Just a quick comment on setting tile on the step. I intentionally waited until this point because with all the stepping in and out of the shower I was doing as I was making final preparations to set tile, I wanted to avoid potentially chipping any tile that I would have already set on the step. Leaving the concrete exposed is a lot easier to deal with if I knock a piece of concrete loose as opposed to having it tear off and replace a piece of tile. The bullnose pieces of tile almost covered the full width of the step, but not quite. It worked out to be a good thing because the shower door and glass panels were mounted directly on the center of the step. It should be making sense now as I'm setting tile that water that will flow down the side walls of the shower will come in contact with the shower floor well inside the perimeter edge of the shower floor because both the HardieBacker and the wall tile are actually resting on the finished shower floor. I'm going to replicate that same idea for the top of the seat in that I'm sliding the pieces of tile that go on the seat back under the edge of the HardieBacker. Again, this allows water off the wall to land on top of the tile pieces on the seat rather than going into a joint at the corner. I follow the same process when I'm building niches into the wall. Solid pieces of tile on the bottom of the niche with the wall pieces inside the niche coming down and resting on those bottom pieces. It's about at this point that you realize you're almost past all the cut-up angles and hole drilling that's required to get to where you're actually making progress and see that you're going to finish this job one day. I don't have a lot of open areas in which to set tile, but whatever there is on this job, at least I'm getting to it now the closer I get to the ceiling. Oops, I almost forgot about the 2 rows of accent tile. But this is when you begin to appreciate what you have done and what a true transformation of a bathroom this has become from where it began. I know many of you who are watching this have either completed projects or are considering taking on something like this on your own. All I can say is that it's hard to describe the sense of satisfaction that comes from doing stuff like this, either for yourself or, as in this case, for a customer who has dreamed of something like this and pondered every detail of what she envisioned it to be. The finishing touch here is to install these low-voltage aquarium lights up in the ceiling. We built in a waterproof ledge where the lights can shine up on the ceiling to give a nice indirect glow. These lights are controlled by the Wi-Fi system in the house that also controls backlit lights on the vanity mirror. But when it's all said and done, the glass panels and shower door really finish off the job. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch, and I certainly hope you found something useful and interesting in this corner shower build. If you stayed around this long, you may as well subscribe and check back when you have the opportunity to see what else might be going on at the shop or out on job sites. Thanks so much for watching.